any friends today!
Welcome back to the final What If episode with What If, episode 8 from season 3, and this is the final of the entire series. Now, do I think it's actually going to be over? Probably not. I feel like in a few years, maybe after they bring in Fantastic Four, the X-Men and stuff, we will start getting more what ifs as they have now introduced these characters into the MCU, and they can kind of play around with storylines that they weren't planning to do with those characters in live action. And even with what happened in this episode, I'm kind of confused how they're going to do Exiles now, even though it definitely does seem like they're setting them up, but because they got rid of Captain Carter, for at least the time being, I don't think she's gone for good. I think she'll return in some way, and gave the other ones cosmic powers. They're definitely going to be changing things up. Except with Birdie, Storm, and Kahori all have cosmic powers from the Watcher, I feel like they'll probably lose those powers and then go into like an Exiles TV show. But definitely what we'll be seeing in the future, what will be happening, because I feel like they didn't set the story up for just to end here. And I feel like they're definitely having more stuff coming. We just have to wait to see. Because this episode definitely set that up with all the stuff that was going on with the Watchers and everything else cosmic level with the different universes, different timelines, especially referencing how universes have been growing. And that's all because of Loki season 2, where he created that multiverse world tree and saved the multiverse in a way. However, with this episode, it was interesting to see the Watcher's origin, where you had the other Watcher telling Uatu that he was certain of Uatu's devotion, but then he interfered and betrayed all of that. All because he had told Uatu to watch over the universes, to learn everything about them. But by doing that and kind of leaning into that side of his job, he understood the universes more, started feeling for them, started to become an actual person rather than only being an oath. He decided to learn to care about life, which is what the other Watchers never really recognized. Uatu was so into it and kind of tired of the injustice, where the other Watchers were just focused on that and letting the universes play out, which technically that is their job. They're not supposed to interfere. However, with, Infinity Ultron in the first season attacking, the Uatu kind of had to interfere. And I mean, even him doing that did cause some problems, but at the same time, it also saved a bunch of lives and created new timelines at the same time. I mean, the problems were like sharing it with mortals and having Stephen Strange create his whole entire universe, also capturing people from other universes. But in the end, he sacrificed himself in order to make his universe again, while his universe was separate from everything else, and he became the god of his own universe. But in the end, he saved that universe and then created even more branched timelines to create more multiverse to make more lives. So it's like Stephen Strange, even though it's kind of started off bad, it kind of corrected itself by the end. And in this season, he helped Riri Williams. I mean, we didn't really see anything bad come out of it afterwards, but she was able to give her world hope and not end in misery. Then we had him saving June Fawn, which just created an iron fist for this new Wild West world. Even though we never really saw the repercussions of that, he did do that as well. So he is saving worlds, saving people, and giving them a chance to live their lives, which in this multiverse would have been cut short if he didn't interfere. So it kind of shows that like moral dilemma. Do we help them, or do we just watch and stand by and let them die? So Uatu's kind of the Watcher that has a heart. He cares, because even though his oath got rid of his name, he reclaimed it by the end of this episode, which I thought was done really well. Even though most of this episode was just like big punching cosmic fight, which was cool. Wasn't expecting it to be like most of the episode, but it was cool enough. I do like how in the beginning, though, when they were giving us Uatu's backstory, they were showing us the timelines that the Watchers were looking at, which is kind of a reference to the first season of Loki, where we were seeing those branching timelines. And we even get to see the observation plane again with Doctor Strange, Steve Hydra Stomper, and Loki, just giving us those flashbacks to the first season of What If. When he was getting in trouble, too, for interfering with these other Earths, we get reference to Nick Fury, Reed Richards. So, the Fantastic Four is out there. And then we get reference to the one and only Madison with a Y. I thought that was kind of funny. They really like to throw Madison in randomly here and there ever since She-Hulk. And honestly, she's a meme, so I'm kind of here for it, because it makes absolutely no sense. But for comedic relief, I think it works. So just having a Madison reference, I think for the second time in a while, was kind of funny. And I'm surprised they put it in. And I love when Captain Carter gets brought in, because Uatu's just shocked, because Captain Carter has also been interfering with the timelines because of Uatu, so her punishment is also death alongside him. And I love the kind of little back and forth they have, where she's like, hey, I'm here to save you. Just like a fun moment. And I do like Captain Carter. I don't really understand everyone's hate with the character. I like her. Now that she's kind of ascended to the new plane, I don't think it was necessarily necessary, but I do like where a character goes because she stands for justice, she wants to help, and I like the hero spirits. I'm always down for it. But Infinity Ultron coming in was pretty badass, coming to save the day. Watch was like, oh shit, it's happening again. Just like he was worried for the worst case scenario because of the first season, but then when he finds out he's with them, he's like, oh, okay. And they get saved by the Exiles as they try to escape from the Watchers as Infinity Ultron sacrifices himself to save the day. I totally thought Infinity Ultron would become the next Watcher because he has ascended to this new power, but instead, he got taken out, similar to a way that Vision got taken out during Infinity War when Scarlet Witch was destroying the Soul Stone. And I like the idea of going to Stephen Strange's universe because he's like the celestial god of the universe as he controls everything within it, making it so the Watchers can't use their powers. They set that up and then they pay it off by the end. So going back to another character we've seen since the first season, and they did that a lot in these last 2 episodes, kind of remembering what we've seen from the last 2 seasons, kind of going full circle with everything, which I think was done well, even though, again, I've said this multiple times, where I'm not a big fan of it all leading into this giant battle at the end. I do like that even though they do that, they still connect it to the other seasons, and the show still feels like those characters that have progressed from season 1 to season 3 feel connected and the story flows for them. Now, what I wasn't expecting from this episode is to watch them get their asses beat for a while until the Watcher gets this Exiles to say the oath of the Watchers to gain the Watchers' powers. And like, it was a cool scene watching them get upgraded to these new cosmic beings. They're kind of all wearing celestial outfits, where I really noticed it on Storm, just those symbols of the Celestials just being on them, which I thought was cool. You know, we got a cool giant battle fight, what Marvel always does. I honestly don't expect anything from them anymore, even though I don't think we always need a giant spectacle. It was still a cool fight, just watching the giant powers as they go off. We got a cool reference during the fight too when Peggy was fighting. When her shield got split, we got the Captain America theme playing as she now has 2 shields that she's fighting with, kind of also a reference to Captain America's gauntlets from Infinity War. So I thought that was cool. Like, you know, there's some good moments in there, and when Birdie was firing and when she lit up, it kind of reminded me of what the Phoenix would have been in Marvel Comics. So I thought that was a reference to that at least. Maybe I might be pulling, but I thought that might have been it, and it would have worked, honestly. Storm doing a tornado was pretty cool, just watching her go full power in Storm Thor God mode. And like, these were good moments because they're just showing us these, you know, interesting fights, watching them all go full force and just watching them bash each other across the planet. And then when the planet gets destroyed, that's kind of a reference to Eternals, where the emergence happened. We even had a moment where Peggy Carter is slamming the Watcher on the floor, just like how the Hulk did to Loki in the first Avengers movie. And I will say, the music kind of slapped in this episode. Just having the music go on, it kind of increased the intensity of the theme, but also giving us these moments where the music heightened the hero moments we got during it. Then when the Watchers went full god mode to erase these characters from every existence in the multiverse, we got some pretty cool variants during it, where we had Storm, the only variant we saw from her was a Black Panther version of her, which is a reference to the comics where Black Panther and Storm got married and were a thing for a while. Then we got Peggy getting a bunch of different ones, where we have a Black Knight version of her, a Sabretooth version of her, a Wolverine, Elektra, Deathlock, even a Valkyrie one. Someone said it was just an Asgardian, but I think the outfit kind of resembles Valkyrie a little bit more. Then Birdie, we got a Nova Corps version of her, a Duck Birdie, even an Archangel from the X-Men comics. Kahori literally becomes Apocalypse in hers. We have a Native American version of her, which I'm assuming that's just her without powers. Then we have a Captain America Kahori, a Cloak one, I think. When I looked at the black cloak on her head, I just assumed it might be a reference to Cloak. Then we have an X-Men Kahori, which is just that classic yellow X-Men suit, but I think this is also a reference to Danny Moonstar from the X-Men comics because she's also Native American. So all these little cool variants were cool to see. Like, we got a lot of variants in this episode, especially at the end where we got all those other multiverses, which we will talk about in a minute. But I thought seeing these different variants were cool because obviously a lot of these don't make sense, but that's the thing about the multiverse. Nothing makes sense, and you can see a variant of any character, which I always think is cool. Like, not for the main stories, but just for like one-offs, I'm always here for it. But that all leads into Captain Carter doing her hero sacrifice in the classic Captain determination as she refuses to let any of her friends die, which I think was a great moment. I think, you know, if people complain about Captain Carter doing this, like, Steve Rogers would also do this. Like, this is something they would do as characters, and I think it works perfectly for who they are. And it was cool to see her go cosmic. She goes into like the space mode where you look at her and you can see the stars and everything, which is just pretty much kind of a reference to like Eternity from the comics, but also showing that she's now reaching a new cosmic plane of existence where I don't think she's gone after this. She will be back in some way, but now she's in this new plane of existence. as this new cosmic being. Honestly, I wasn't expecting this, and I didn't really want her to become a cosmic being. I would have much rather her be on the Exiles and seen more of her in the future, but hey, who knows? They might change something up eventually and she might come back to us. Except I will say I definitely did see a hero sacrifice coming from her because it just felt like something her character would do. Now, she ended up bringing them to Stephen Strange's universe, like I said earlier, and by doing that, it makes it so that the Watchers cannot use their powers because Stephen Strange controls everything. Which I think that gave him a good moment too, showing that he has become more of this cosmic being of his universe where he's watching over it to make sure that the people he cares about are having the lives they need. Even though he can't be there, he can still see the joy that will come from it. And we even get a reference here where we have the Watchers on the moon, which is a reference to Uatu and the blue side of the moon from the comics, because that's where his home base is. Uatu giving us that similar speech, how he's going to teach the Watchers to see, so they can look at the universe in a different light, giving them a new kind of plane perspective while this Watcher is staying on Stephen Strange's Earth. He'll learn what Uatu learned over the years of staring at the multiverse, how to see what they are, how to kind of care about these people. And I think that's a really interesting way of seeing it, where this is where we're going to kind of lead into the Exiles, where maybe the Watchers won't be interfering, but we'll have characters like the Exiles going around and saving the multiverse as much as they can. Because we even have the TVA helping timelines as well. So we just kind of have all these different factions going around the multiverse trying to save these different timelines. So I think it's cool. They're really setting up the multiverse, different timelines, right? They're all getting us ready for Secret Wars and what we're going to see there. So I think that is cool. And then whatever ends up happening after Secret Wars, if we get a new multiverse or if we get a new single world, because after the end of the first Secret Wars, the multiverse was destroyed, where like even characters from Earth 1610 which was Miles Morales, the Ultimate Universe, got put onto Earth 616. Even Old Man Logan from his Earth got put on Earth 616. Stuff like that happened, and then eventually the multiverse was reborn because of Franklin Richards and the Fantastic Four. So I'm kind of curious to see how they're going to be doing it in the MCU, because obviously we're not getting to that level. We're not even close to that level with characters in the MCU, so there's no way we can get to that in the movies. So they're definitely changing up what the Secret Wars story is going to be, but I have no idea how that's going to play out. And then we see that Captain Carter is no longer there, and she's pretty much going to be watching over Uatu and everyone else. I feel like she's just now that cosmic being that can just watch over the multiverse wherever she wants. And if we are going to get a new season of What If, maybe she'll be the one that kind of narrates it instead. Because now she's this new plane of existence, she's in a new cosmic level, and she's going to be there. However, because her shield is still there are definitely Captain Carter still in the universe. They never got wiped out, and we will be seeing her again, even if it's just a variant. So a lot of things to come from this. Like I don't know how I feel about the ending. There were cool fights. I feel like they did wrap up some of the story, but I also feel like they didn't really do what If could have been. Now, the What If at the end, where they're showing us all the universes, I think that's what we could have done to have What If more. We got Six-Armed Spider-Man, the first Spider-Man reference since season freaking 1 of this series. Don't know why we didn't get Spider-Man again, at least at some point. We even have a Samurai Ghost Rider, which is more of the Robbie Reyes version of Ghost Rider, because you could tell by his the shirt he's wearing, and I thought that was pretty cool. Now, this is also the first existence of Ghost Rider so far in the MCU, and honestly, I would have loved to see a What If of that. We get Riri Punisher. That was cool. Like, all these different things that we could have actually seen as a What If, and I would have wanted to. I mean, Gamora in a wedding dress, I don't know what that could have been, but hey, maybe her and Star-Lord got married. We got Blade Moon Knight. That would have been dope, but we are getting a version of him during the Marvel Zombies animated show that's coming out later next year. We got a Thanos Weapon X. A Weapon X? Like, I don't even know how that happened, but that seemed pretty cool. Another What If that would have been interesting to see. We got Iron Man Kingo, Miss Marvel Wasp, Sorcerer Supreme Hulk, but this looks like the Maestro Hulk, a Scarlet Witch Howard Duck, Dragon Hawkeye, a Skrull Captain America with Wakanda gauntlets, so he was in Infinity War. We had a Silver Surfer Jubilee, another X-Men making their appearance, but at the very end. Black Knight with Cersei dancing, so he got to be with his girl. We got a more comic Deadpool with all the weapons. A young Hela with Mjolnir that says not worthy on it. A Star-Lord with the 10 rings. That's probably a Shang-Chi Star-Lord, kind of like how we saw T'Challa Star-Lord in the first season. We got a Wild West Loki, a Scarlet Witch from the DC versus Marvel comics, and then a Nova Corps at the end. I couldn't really tell who it was, and then someone else, which was a little blurry, but still, like, we got all these What If stories, which I think would have been really cool. Like, there's just all these different variations where I'm like, hey, why didn't we do these weird What If stories? Which is my only disappointment with the What If series, is I feel like they really missed the mark of what they really could do. Now, of course, we wanted to see What Ifs of all the different movies. Like, what if a different situation happened? Like, I'm still kind of surprised we never got, like, what if the other half didn't get blipped? Like, I don't understand why we didn't get stuff like that. But at the same time, why didn't we get some of these weirder What If stories? I feel like 8 episodes for this type of series doesn't work. They could have just had to keep going. It didn't have to have an overarching overarching story. Even though I did enjoy the overarching story, I don't think it needed that. That will always be my one like gripe with What If, is that I feel like they could have done a lot more with it and just gave us more weirder stories, more characters. That's how you introduce them, get us to know this variant and then introduce them into the MCU or something along those lines. But in the end, like What If wasn't like the perfect series. I think it still had good moments, it had cool fights, it had cool what ifs as well. My favorite is still the Marvel Zombie What If, and I'm still excited to see the Marvel Zombie show. Disappointing, it's only gonna be like 4 episodes, but I'm all in for Marvel Zombies and I can't wait for that. But honestly, we'll see what's going to happen next. I'm still a lot unexplained after this, but I feel like pretty much the quick gist of what's going on is that we'll get an Exiles TV show at some point that'll have Birdie, Storm, and Kahori on it, and then maybe a new version of Captain Carter from the multiverse and other characters eventually appearing. Cosmic level Captain Carter probably making an appearance at some point in another show as a new cosmic being, and then the Watcher will come back at some point narrating something and, well, watching. So I'm excited to see what happens next. I really like that this episode gave us a bunch of different variant looks to these characters and then giving us all those variants in different universes at the end. I thought that was really cool, but let me know, what did you think of this episode? What other Easter eggs and references did you notice during it? And how did you feel about the big climactic fight at the end? Did you think we needed it, or do you think it was a little overkill? I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching my What If videos. If you liked it, hit the like, hit the subscribe button. You can stay up to date with all my DC and Marvel breakdowns, and I will most likely be covering the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man show when that comes out later next month, so stay tuned for that. Thanks again, and I'll talk to you later when we watch more Marvel and DC TV and movies.